Stop it!
It's okay, calm down.
A husband's worst fear came true when his wife replaced him with her dog. Marcus never thought a rescue dog would destroy his marriage. But when he came home early from his business trip and heard strange sounds coming from the bedroom, his blood ran cold. He pushed the door open slowly, and what he saw made his heart stop. His wife Sarah was lying in bed, whispering sweet words, her hands gently stroking fur, her lips curved in a smile he hadn't seen in months. "You're the only one who truly understands me," she whispered. "You're always here when I need you." And there, sprawled across Marcus's side of the bed, was Bruno, the massive German shepherd she'd adopted 6 months ago. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. Marcus stood frozen in the doorway, his suitcase still in his hand from the trip he'd cut short. The scene before him felt like a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. Sarah, his wife of 7 years, was wrapped around the dog like he was her lover. Bruno's massive head rested on Marcus's pillow, the dog's eyes half closed in contentment as Sarah's fingers traced gentle patterns through his fur. "You're my good boy," Sarah cooed softly, her voice tender in a way Marcus hadn't heard directed at him in months. "You never leave me. You never ignore me. You're always here." Bruno's tail wagged slowly, thumping against the comforter. Marcus felt his stomach turn. The intimacy of the moment, the softness in Sarah's voice, the way she was curled around the animal in their bed. It was too much. This was their space, their sanctuary, and it had been invaded, not by another man, but by a dog. "What the hell is this?" The words came out strangled, barely above a whisper. Sarah's head snapped up, her eyes wide with surprise. "Marcus, you're home early." "Yeah, I can see that," he said, his voice shaking as anger began to replace shock. He stepped into the room, dropping his suitcase with a heavy thud. "What are you doing?" 17. "I'm just lying with Bruno," Sarah said, sitting up slowly. Her defensive tone was immediate. "What's the problem?" "The problem?" Marcus's voice rose, echoing off the bedroom walls. "You're in our bed, cuddling with a dog like he's your husband." Sarah's face hardened. She swung her legs over the side of the bed and stood to face him, one hand still resting on Bruno's head. The dog remained calm, watching the exchange with intelligent eyes. "Maybe if you acted like my husband," Sarah said, her voice low and sharp, "I wouldn't need the dog." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He took a step back, his mouth opening and closing as he tried to process what she'd just said. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the sound of Bruno's panting. "What are you talking about?" Marcus finally managed. "You're never here, Marcus," Sarah said. And now her voice was trembling, years of hurt bleeding through. "And when you are, you're not really present. You don't talk to me. You don't listen. You don't care." "I work hard for us," Marcus shouted, his hands balling into fists at his sides. "For us?" Sarah stood up from the bed fully now, her eyes blazing. "Or for you? When was the last time we had a real conversation? When was the last time you asked me how I was feeling? When was the last time you made me feel like I mattered?" Marcus opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. His mind raced, searching for the answers to her questions, but came up empty. He couldn't remember. God help him, he couldn't remember. Sarah wiped her eyes, tears now streaming down her face. "Bruno doesn't ignore me. He doesn't make me feel alone. He's there when I need him." Marcus stared at her, then at the dog still lying peacefully on his side of the bed. Bruno looked completely at home, completely comfortable in a space that should have been Marcus's. The symbolism wasn't lost on him. The dog had taken his place, literally and figuratively. And in that moment, Marcus realized the terrifying truth. He hadn't just lost his wife's attention. He'd lost her heart. A simple, loyal, loving dog had taken his place. How did it come to this? Marcus whispered, more to himself than to Sarah. When did I lose you? Sarah looked at him with sad, tired eyes. You started losing me the day you stopped seeing me. Marcus couldn't stand to be in that room another second. Without another word, he turned and walked out, leaving Sarah standing there with tears on her cheeks and Bruno at her side. He grabbed his keys from the entry table and stormed out of the house, the door slamming behind him. As he sat in his car in the driveway, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white, one question echoed in his mind. How did it come to this? The alarm clock buzzed at 6:30 a.m. Marcus's hand shot out from under the covers, slapping it silent before the second beep could sound. Beside him, Sarah stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Or maybe she was awake and just pretending to sleep. Marcus couldn't tell anymore. He slipped out of bed quietly, padding to the bathroom for a quick shower. 20 minutes later, he emerged dressed in slacks and a button-down shirt, his hair still damp, already checking emails on his phone as he descended the stairs. In the kitchen, he poured coffee into his travel mug, grabbed a granola bar from the cabinet, and stuffed his laptop into his bag. The morning routine was mechanical, efficient, and completely silent. Marcus? He turned to see Sarah standing in the kitchen doorway in her robe, her hair messy from sleep, her eyes hopeful. Morning, he said, not looking up from his phone. I've got an early meeting, gotta run. I was thinking maybe we could have breakfast together, Sarah said softly. It's Saturday. Can't. The Peterson project is behind schedule. He walked past her toward the front door, still scrolling through emails. I'll probably be home late. Don't wait up. I love you. Sarah called after him. Yeah, you too, Marcus said over his shoulder, already halfway out the door. Sarah stood in the doorway, watching his car pull out of the driveway. She watched until it disappeared around the corner, then slowly closed the door. The house felt enormous and empty around her. This is how it had been for months. Maybe years. Sarah couldn't pinpoint exactly when things had changed, but they had, slowly, gradually, like a photograph fading in the sun until you could barely make out the image anymore. She made herself a cup of tea and settled at her desk in the spare bedroom she'd converted into a home office. As a freelance graphic designer, she worked from home, which had seemed perfect when they'd first discussed it. She could work on her own schedule, be there when Marcus came home, maybe even start a family soon. But Marcus was never home, and the idea of a family had faded into the background along with everything else. Sarah worked through the morning on a logo redesign for a local restaurant. She had a video call with a client at 11, another at 2. She made herself lunch, a simple sandwich, and ate it alone at the kitchen table, scrolling through social media on her phone. That's when she saw it. A post from the Riverside Animal Shelter, shared by a friend. The photo showed a beautiful German shepherd with intelligent brown eyes and a thick, dark coat. The caption read, "Meet Bruno. This sweet boy is 4 years old and in desperate need of a home. His previous owner abandoned him when they moved. Bruno is gentle, loyal, and just needs someone to love him. He's been with us for 3 months and we're running out of time. Please share." Sarah stared at the photo. Bruno's eyes seemed to look right through the screen, right into her soul. Those eyes held sadness, abandonment, a desperate hope that someone would see him, someone to love him, Sarah whispered to herself. She felt something stir in her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. A pull, a connection, a need. Before she could talk herself out of it, Sarah grabbed her keys and drove to the shelter. The building was small and smelled of disinfectant and wet dog. A young woman, with kind eyes, greeted her at the front desk. "Hi, I'm here about Bruno," Sarah said. "The German shepherd from your post?" The woman's face lit up. "Oh, wonderful. Let me take you back to meet him." They walked through a corridor lined with kennels. Dogs barked and jumped as they passed, tails wagging, desperate for attention. But when they reached Bruno's kennel at the end, There was only silence. Bruno sat in the corner, looking up at them with those same sad eyes from the photo. He didn't bark. He didn't jump. He just watched. "He's been really depressed," the shelter worker said softly. "When dogs get abandoned, especially by owners they loved, it breaks something in them. He just sits there most of the day, waiting." Sarah's heart cracked. She knew that feeling. That waiting. That hoping someone would remember you existed. "Can I go in?" she asked. The worker opened the kennel door. Sarah stepped inside and knelt down on the concrete floor. Bruno looked at her for a long moment, then slowly stood and walked over. He stopped right in front of her, close enough that she could feel his warm breath. Then he lowered his massive head and rested it against her leg. Sarah felt tears spring to her eyes. She reached out with a trembling hand and stroked his fur. It was soft and thick, and beneath her fingers, she could feel his heartbeat. "You've been abandoned too, haven't you?" she whispered. Bruno looked up at her, and Sarah could swear she saw understanding in his eyes. Then he licked her hand, one gentle swipe of his tongue, as if to say, "I see you too." "I'll take him home," Sarah said, looking up at the worker through her tears. 20 minutes later, after filling out paperwork and paying the adoption fee, Sarah loaded Bruno into the back seat of her car. He sat calmly, looking out the window as they drove. "You're going to like it at my house," Sarah said, glancing at him in the rearview mirror. "It's quiet. There's a backyard, and I'm always home." Bruno's tail wagged once. During that drive, Sarah talked more than she had in weeks. She told Bruno about her work, about the house, about the neighborhood. And Bruno, he listened. His eyes in the mirror stayed focused on her, his head tilted slightly, as if he understood every word. Sarah realized something that made her both happy and deeply sad. This was the first real conversation she'd had in a long time. When they pulled into the driveway, Sarah's stomach tightened. Marcus's car was already there. She checked her phone. It was only 5:30. He never came home this early. She led Bruno inside on his new leash. The dog stayed close to her side, calm and well-behaved. They found Marcus in the living room, jacket still on, briefcase on the couch, staring at his phone. He looked up when they entered, and his eyes widened. "A dog?" Marcus said, his voice filled with disbelief. "Sarah, we never discussed getting a dog. You're never here to discuss anything." Sarah shot back, the words coming out sharper than she'd intended. Marcus's jaw tightened. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his shoulders slumped. For a moment, Sarah thought he might argue. He might actually engage in a real conversation about this. Instead, he just sighed heavily. "Fine. Whatever. Just keep him out of my office." And with that, Marcus picked up his briefcase, walked past her and Bruno without another glance, and disappeared upstairs to his home office. Sarah heard the door close, then lock. She stood in the living room, leash in hand, feeling the familiar ache of invisibility settle over her again. Then she felt something warm press against her leg. Bruno had moved closer, his body leaning into hers, offering silent support. Sarah sank down onto the floor and wrapped her arms around the dog's neck. He didn't pull away. He just stayed there, solid and warm and present. "At least someone cares," Sarah whispered into his fur. And in that moment, something shifted. A decision was made, though Sarah didn't fully recognize it yet. If Marcus wouldn't be her companion, Bruno would be. The first week with Bruno changed everything for Sarah. Every morning, before she started work, she took Bruno for a walk around the neighborhood. The early air was crisp and clean, and as they walked, Sarah talked. She talked about her projects, her frustrations with difficult clients, her worries about money, her childhood memories, her dreams for the future. Everything she used to share with Marcus poured out to this patient, attentive dog, and Bruno listened. Really listened. His ears would perk up at changes in her tone. He'd look up at her when she paused, Sometimes he'd press against her leg as if to say, "I'm here." 2. During work hours, Bruno made a spot for himself beside Sarah's desk. He'd lie there for hours, occasionally getting up to stretch or drink water, but always returning to that spot near her feet. Sarah found herself reaching down to pet him throughout the day. The simple act of touching his soft fur grounding her, reminding her she wasn't completely alone. When she felt stressed, like when a client rejected her third concept in a row, Bruno would somehow sense it. He'd rest his massive head on her lap, those brown eyes looking up at her with such understanding that Sarah's heart would squeeze. When she cried, which happened more often than she liked to admit, Bruno would lick her tears away. Marcus noticed none of this. He came home late most evenings, grabbed whatever dinner Sarah had left covered on the stove, and retreated to his office. On the rare occasions they were in the same room, Marcus was on his phone or laptop, his responses to Sarah's attempts at conversation reduced to grunts and one-word answers. But Sarah had stopped waiting for him. She had Bruno now. 2 weeks after the adoption, Sarah was curled up on the couch reading a book, Bruno's head resting on her thigh, when Marcus came home around 9 p.m. "Hey," he said, loosening his tie as he walked through the living room toward the kitchen. "Hi," Sarah replied, not looking up from her book. Her hand continued to stroke Bruno's fur in a steady, soothing rhythm. Marcus paused, turned back. "Hours ago." "Oh. Okay." He stood there awkwardly for a moment, as if he wanted to say something else, but couldn't figure out what. Finally, he continued to the kitchen. Sarah didn't move from her spot, didn't call out to ask about his day, didn't offer to heat up his dinner. She just kept reading, kept petting Bruno, kept existing in her own world that Marcus no longer seemed to be part of. By week 3, Bruno had moved from the dog bed Sarah had bought him to the foot of the master bed. Sarah had encouraged it after waking up alone once again, Marcus having fallen asleep in his office. "Come on, boy," she'd whispered, patting the comforter. Bruno had hopped up carefully, circled twice, and settled at her feet. She'd slept better that night than she had in months. By week 4, Bruno was sleeping between Marcus and Sarah. The bed was a king size, so there was plenty of room, but the symbolism was impossible to miss. A physical barrier now existed in the space that was supposed to be intimate. Marcus finally noticed on a Friday night when he actually came to bed at a reasonable hour. He pulled back the covers to find Bruno sprawled across his side. Sarah curled up on the far edge of her side. "Why is the dog on my side of the bed?" Marcus asked, standing there in his pajamas. Sarah didn't even open her eyes. "He gets lonely. Plus, you're never here anyway." "Sarah, this is ridiculous. He's a dog. And yet, he's better company than you've been in months." Marcus opened his mouth to argue, but he was too tired, too worn down from a week of meetings and deadlines and office politics. He climbed into the small space left on his side of the bed, his back pressed against the edge of the mattress. That night, Marcus lay awake, staring at the ceiling, acutely aware of the large dog breathing heavily between him and his wife. He felt a twinge of something. Jealousy, maybe. Which was absurd. It was just a dog. But when morning came, and Marcus woke to see Sarah's arm draped over Bruno, her face peaceful in sleep, in a way it never looked when she was awake around Marcus, that twinge grew stronger. He said nothing. The bedroom, their intimate space, was no longer theirs. But Marcus was too proud, too stubborn, or maybe just too cowardly, to admit that it bothered him. As the weeks turned into months, Sarah's morning routine evolved. She'd wake up, immediately turn to Bruno, and kiss the top of his head, whisper, "Good morning, baby," and take him outside. Marcus would get a distracted, "Have a good day" as he left for work, if he got anything at all. The goodbye kisses they used to share were now reserved for the dog. Sarah's social media told the story Marcus was too busy to read in real life. Her Instagram, once filled with couple photos and inspirational design quotes, became a shrine to Bruno. Photos of Bruno in the morning light, with the caption, My best friend. A video of Bruno bringing her his leash with the caption, "The only man I need." A close-up of Bruno's face with the caption, "He's always here when I need him." A photo of Bruno sleeping on the bed with the caption, "True loyalty looks like this." Her friends noticed immediately. The comments rolled in. "Girl, you talk about that dog more than your husband. Where's Marcus? We only see Bruno now. Is everything okay? You seem different." To the first comment, Sarah responded, "Because he's actually there for me." She ignored the others. One day, Marcus's co-worker David pulled him aside at lunch. "Hey man, you seeing Sarah's Instagram lately?" Marcus frowned. "No. Why?" David showed him his phone, scrolling through Sarah's recent posts. Every single one was Bruno. Not a single mention of Marcus in 3 months. "Dude, that's a lot of dog posts," David said carefully. Marcus shrugged, handing back the phone. "She's just excited about the dog." "It's fine." But it wasn't fine. Everyone could see it except Marcus. Or maybe Marcus could see it, but didn't want to admit what it meant. That evening, Sarah's best friend Claire called. "Okay, we need to talk," Claire said without preamble. "Are you and Marcus okay?" Sarah was lying on the couch, Bruno's head in her lap. She stared at the ceiling, considering the question. "Sarah, you know I love you, but the Bruno posts are getting concerning. That dog has basically replaced your husband on your social media. Maybe that's because he's replaced my husband in my life," Sarah said quietly. There was a long pause. "Oh, honey, I'm not trying to be dramatic, Claire, but Marcus is never here, and when he is, he's not really present. Bruno is. Bruno listens. Bruno cares. Bruno makes me feel like I matter. Sarah, he's a dog." "I know that." Sarah's voice cracked. "Don't you think I know how pathetic this is? That I'm getting more emotional support from an animal than from my own husband? But at least Bruno sees me. At least someone does." After they hung up, Sarah looked down at Bruno. His brown eyes gazed back at her, full of what looked like understanding and concern. "You're not the problem," she whispered to him. 2 months in, the transformation was complete. Sarah told Bruno everything. Late at night, when Marcus was locked in his office or away on another business trip, Sarah would sit on the floor with Bruno and whisper all her fears, her dreams, her frustrations. "I feel invisible," she'd tell him. "Like I'm a ghost in my own home." Bruno would press his nose against her cheek. "I don't think he loves me anymore," she'd admit, tears streaming down her face. "Or maybe he does, but he loves his job more." Bruno would lick her tears away. "What am I supposed to do?" she'd ask. "How much longer can I live like this?" Bruno couldn't answer, of course. But he was there. He listened. He never interrupted, never dismissed her feelings, never told her she was overreacting. One evening, Marcus actually suggested they go out to dinner. "Like a date night," he said, trying to smile. "Just the two of us." Sarah hesitated, her hand automatically going to Bruno's head. "Can Bruno come? Can Bruno come?" Marcus stared at her. "Sarah, it's supposed to be us time. We haven't had us time in over a year, Marcus. What difference does one more night make? That's not fair, isn't it?" Sarah met his eyes fully for the first time in weeks. "When was the last time we had a real conversation? When was the last time you were fully present with me?" Marcus had no answer. They went to dinner. It was awkward and silent. Marcus tried to make conversation, asking about her work, but his phone kept buzzing with emails and texts. Each time, his eyes would flicker to the screen, his attention divided. Halfway through the meal, Sarah gave up trying. She pulled out her own phone and texted Claire a photo of Bruno from earlier that day with the caption, "Missing, my boy." Marcus saw the text. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. When they got home, Sarah immediately went to Bruno, kneeling down to hug him while he wagged his tail and licked her face. Marcus got a pat on the shoulder as she walked past him up the stairs. That night, Marcus lay awake again, that feeling of jealousy growing into something bigger, something like fear. The next morning, Marcus announced he had a 5-day business trip to Chicago. A big conference, meetings with potential clients, networking opportunities. He'd be leaving on Monday. Okay, Sarah said simply, not looking up from her coffee. She was sitting on the floor, Bruno's head resting on her knee. Okay? Marcus repeated. That's it? What do you want me to say, Marcus? You go on these trips all the time. I thought maybe you'd care. Sarah looked up at him then, and the emptiness in her eyes made his breath catch. I stopped counting on you being here. A long time ago. Marcus left for his trip on Monday morning. Sarah barely got up from the couch to say goodbye. She was too busy laughing at something Bruno had just done, trying to catch a beam of sunlight on the wall. As Marcus pulled out of the driveway, he looked in his rearview mirror. Through the front window, he could see Sarah sitting on the floor, hugging Bruno. Her face pressed into his fur. She looked relieved. Marcus drove to the airport with a knot in his stomach that wouldn't go away. For the first time in years, he felt like he was losing something important, but he told himself it was just stress, just the pressure of work, just temporary. He was wrong. Back at home, Sarah watched Marcus's car disappear around the corner. Then she turned to Bruno, scratched behind his ears, and smiled. Finally, she whispered. Just me and you. Day 1 of Marcus's trip started like all the others. He checked into his hotel, attended the opening conference session, sat through presentations about market trends and growth strategies. But his mind kept drifting. During the lunch break, he pulled out his phone and called Sarah. She answered on the 4th ring. Hey, he said, trying to sound cheerful. Just wanted to check in. How's everything? Everything's fine, Sarah said. But her voice was bright, lighter than he'd heard it in months. In the background, he could hear what sounded like laughter. What are you doing? He asked. Just playing with Bruno in the backyard, she said. More laughter. Real, genuine, joyful laughter. Marcus felt something twist in his chest. That's great. Was there something you needed? Sarah asked, her attention clearly divided. No, I miss you. Okay. Well, I should go. Bruno's digging up the garden again. Talk later? She hung up before he could respond. Marcus stared at his phone. She'd shown more enthusiasm talking about the dog chasing a butterfly than she had talking to him. When was the last time he'd heard her laugh like that? He couldn't remember. Day 2. Marcus tried to focus on his meetings, but his mind kept wandering. During a break, he tried to video call Sarah. She declined. A text came through. Busy. Talk later. Busy? Sarah worked from home. She could take a call, unless she just didn't want to. Marcus checked her Instagram. She'd posted a story 20 minutes ago. A video of her and Bruno at a local dog park. Bruno running through the grass with other dogs, while Sarah laughed in the background. The caption read, Living my best life. Living her best life. While he was away, Marcus's colleague James noticed his distraction during their afternoon meeting. Everything okay, man? You seem out of it. Yeah. But he wasn't fine. For the first time, he was truly seeing what everyone else had apparently seen for weeks. His wife was happier without him. Day 3. Marcus woke up to another Instagram story from Sarah. This time, it was a photo of her and Bruno at what looked like a trendy coffee shop with outdoor seating. Bruno sat beside her table like a perfect gentleman, while Sarah held up her latte. She was smiling. Really smiling. The kind of smile that reached her eyes and made them crinkle at the corners. The caption, Best day ever with my favorite guy. The comments were immediate. You look so happy. That smile. Bruno is one lucky dog. Girl, you're glowing. Marcus stared at the photo for a long time. Sarah was glowing. She looked radiant, relaxed, genuinely happy. When was the last time she'd looked at him like that? When was the last time she'd wanted to spend a whole day with him? He couldn't remember. That evening, over drinks with his co-workers, James brought it up again. Seriously, Marcus, what's going on? You've been distracted this whole trip. Marcus took a long drink of his whiskey. I think I'm losing my wife. The table went quiet. To who? David asked. Marcus almost laughed, but it came out bitter. To our dog. No one knew what to say to that. It sounded absurd. It was absurd. But it was also true. Have you talked to her? James asked carefully. I've tried. But she's different now. Distant. Like I'm the roommate she tolerates, not her husband. When did this start? Marcus thought about it, really thought about it. I've been so focused on work, on this promotion, on proving myself. I thought I was building a future for us. But maybe I was just building it for me. The truth of those words hit him hard. Day 4. Marcus barely slept. He kept thinking about Sarah, about the distance between them, about how he'd let everything fall apart without even realizing it. He called her in the morning. This time, she answered immediately. But her voice was distracted. Hey, Marcus, what's up? I'm actually at the park with Bruno right now. Again? The word came out sharper than he intended. Yes, again. Is that a problem? It's just, you're spending a lot of time with that dog. Sarah's laugh was cold. Well, someone has to. He actually appreciates the company. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, Marcus. Is there something you actually need? Because I'm kind of in the middle of something. In the background, Marcus could hear other voices. Sarah, talking to someone. Laughing. A man's voice responding. Marcus's stomach dropped. Who are you with? He demanded. I'm at a dog park, Marcus. There are other people here with their dogs. We're just talking. About what? Oh my God. Sarah's voice was filled with exasperation. About dogs, Marcus. About training and breeds and normal things that normal people who actually engage with the world talk about. Sarah, I have to go. Bruno's getting into something. I'll talk to you when you get back. She hung up. Marcus stood in his hotel room, phone in hand, heart pounding. The jealousy he'd been feeling wasn't just about the dog anymore. It was about everything the dog represented. Connection, attention, presence, all the things Marcus had stopped giving. His wife was building a life that didn't include him. And she was happier for it. That evening, Marcus barely touched his dinner at the conference banquet. His mind was racing, playing back years of moments he'd missed, conversations he'd ignored, nights he'd chosen his laptop over his wife. He'd been such a fool. Day 5. Marcus couldn't take it anymore. The conference wasn't over, but he didn't care. He skipped the final day of sessions, checked out of his hotel, and caught an early morning flight home. He didn't tell Sarah he was coming. He wanted to surprise her, to talk to her, to fix whatever had broken between them before it was too late. During the drive from the airport, Marcus rehearsed what he'd say. I'm sorry I've been absent. I'm sorry I made you feel invisible. Let's fix this. Let's go to counseling. Let's remember why we fell in love. He'd bring her flowers tomorrow. Maybe they could take a vacation. Just the two of them. He'd cut back on work. Be home more. Actually be present when he was there. It could work. They could fix this. Marcus pulled into the driveway around 2 in the afternoon. Sarah's car was there. He grabbed his suitcase from the trunk and unlocked the front door as quietly as possible, wanting to surprise her. Sarah, I'm home, he called out, setting his suitcase by the door. No answer. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Marcus walked through the living room. Empty. The kitchen. Empty. His footsteps echoed on the hardwood floors. Then he heard it. A soft voice from upstairs. Sarah's voice. His heart started pounding. Was someone else here? Marcus climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. The voice was clearer now. Sarah's voice, soft and tender. "You're my good boy. You know that, right?" Marcus's blood went cold. His mind immediately jumped to the worst conclusion. Another man. It had to be. That's why she'd been so distant. So happy without him. He pushed the door open, his heart in his throat, ready to confront whoever had taken his place. But there was no man. Just Sarah, lying in bed in the middle of the afternoon, fully clothed but tangled up with Bruno. The massive German shepherd was stretched out beside her, his head resting on Marcus's pillow. Sarah's arm was draped over the dog's body, her fingers running through his fur, her face so close to Bruno's that they were almost touching. "You never leave me," Sarah was whispering to the dog, her voice the same tender tone she used to use with Marcus years ago. "You never ignore me. You're always here." Bruno's tail wagged slowly, thumping against the comforter. His eyes were half closed in contentment, completely relaxed in what was supposed to be Marcus and Sarah's intimate space. Marcus felt physically sick. The intimacy of the scene, the tenderness in Sarah's voice, the way she was looking at the dog with more love than she'd shown Marcus in months. It was too much. This was worse than finding another man. At least that he could understand. At least that he could fight against. But this? His wife had replaced him with a dog. She'd given all her affection, all her emotional intimacy, all her love, to an animal, because he'd failed to be worthy of it. What the hell is this? The words came out strangled. Sarah's head snapped up, her eyes wide with surprise. "Marcus, you're home early." "Yeah, I can see that," he said, his voice shaking with a mixture of anger and hurt and shame. "What are you doing?" "What? I'm just lying with Bruno," Sarah said, sitting up slowly, her hand still resting protectively on the dog. "What's the problem?" "And the problem?" Marcus's voice rose, all the emotion of the past 5 days exploding out of him. "You're in our bed, cuddling with a dog like he's your husband." Sarah's face hardened instantly. She swung her legs over the side of the bed and stood to face him, Bruno sitting up alertly beside her. "Maybe if you acted like my husband, I wouldn't need the dog." There it was again. Those same words from months ago. But this time, Marcus really heard them, really understood what they meant. "What are you talking about?" But even as he said it, he knew. God help him. He knew. "You're never here, Marcus," Sarah said, and her voice was trembling now, years of pain finally spilling over. "You don't talk to me. You don't listen. You don't care about anything except your job and your email and your next promotion." "I work hard for us," Marcus shouted, his own pain turning to defensiveness. "Everything I do is for us." "For us?" Sarah's voice cracked. "Or for you? When was the last time we had a real conversation, Marcus? When was the last time you asked me how I was feeling? When was the last time you looked at me? Really looked at me, and saw that I was drowning?" "See," Marcus opened his mouth to respond, scrambling for answers, but his mind was blank. He tried to remember their last real conversation, the last time he'd asked about her day, and actually listened to the answer. The last time he'd noticed that his wife was struggling. He came up empty. The silence stretched between them, heavy and damning. Marcus started, but nothing followed. What could he say? She was right. About all of it. Sarah wiped her eyes, tears now streaming down her face. "Bruno doesn't ignore me. He doesn't make me feel like an inconvenience. He doesn't make me beg for 5 minutes of attention. He's there when I need him. He listens when I talk. He makes me feel like I matter." Marcus looked at Bruno, still sitting calmly on the bed, watching the exchange with intelligent eyes. The dog had done nothing wrong. Bruno had simply filled a void that Marcus had created. "I'm losing you," Marcus whispered, the realization crushing him. "I've already lost you." Sarah's shoulders shook with sobs. "You started losing me the day you stopped seeing me, Marcus." The day you chose your laptop over talking to me at dinner. The day you started coming home at midnight instead of 7. The day you stopped kissing me goodbye. The day I became invisible. I didn't mean to. I know you didn't mean to. Sarah's voice rose. That's what makes it so much worse. You didn't even notice it happening. You didn't notice me disappearing. You didn't notice me crying myself to sleep. You didn't notice me falling apart. Marcus felt his own tears start to fall. I'm sorry. Sarah. I'm so sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry you got caught? That hit hard because Marcus didn't know the answer. Was he sorry for how he'd treated her? Or was he just sorry that it had consequences? He looked at his wife. Really looked at her for the first time in months. She looked tired. Older. There were dark circles under her eyes that he hadn't noticed before. When had those appeared? She'd lost weight. Her shoulders were slumped in a way that spoke of carrying heavy burdens alone. How had he not seen this? I don't know if we can come back from this, Sarah said quietly. Sitting back down on the bed, Bruno immediately moved closer to her, and she wrapped her arm around him. I don't know if I want to. Those words terrified Marcus more than anything else. Please don't say that. Why not? Give me one good reason why I should stay in a marriage where I feel more alone than I did when I was single. Marcus couldn't. He had no defense, no excuse, no justification for the years of neglect. I love you, he finally said, and he meant it. Despite everything, he still loved her. Sarah looked at him with sad, tired eyes. Love isn't enough, Marcus. Love without presence is just words. And I'm tired of words. Marcus stood there, helpless and broken, watching his wife hold a dog with more tenderness than she'd shown him in over a year. And he realized the horrible truth. He hadn't just been replaced. He'd earned his replacement. He'd destroyed his own marriage. One ignored conversation at a time. One missed dinner at a time. One, I'm too busy, at a time. And now he might have done it too late to fix it. I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight, Marcus said quietly. Give us both some space to think. Sarah just nodded, not even looking at him. Marcus turned and walked out of the bedroom. Down the stairs. Past his unpacked suitcase. And out to his car. He sat in the driveway for a long moment, staring at the house he'd bought with dreams of a family and a future. Then he drove away, tears streaming down his face, to a cheap hotel where he'd spend the night alone, replaying every moment he'd thrown away, every chance he'd wasted, every signal he'd missed. How did it come to this? He knew the answer now. It came to this because of him. The hotel room was generic and depressing. Beige walls, scratchy sheets, the faint smell of cleaning chemicals. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed at 2 a.m, unable to sleep, unable to think about anything except Sarah's face as she'd chosen the dog over him. His phone sat on the nightstand, dark and silent. He picked it up and scrolled through old photos. There were hundreds of them. Marcus and Sarah at their wedding, both of them so young and full of hope. Sarah laughing at something he'd said, looking at him like he was her entire world. The two of them on vacation in Mexico, her head on his shoulder, both of them sun-kissed and happy. A selfie from their anniversary dinner 2 years ago, before everything fell apart. When did that stop? When did she stop looking at him like that? Marcus knew the answer. It stopped when he stopped making it a priority. It stopped when he started choosing conference calls over date nights. It stopped when he started treating her like a roommate instead of his wife. He kept scrolling. The more recent photos told a different story. Sarah's smile getting smaller, more forced. The space between them in photos getting wider. And then, about 8 months ago, the photos of the two of them stopped altogether. The last photo of them together was from a company holiday party. Sarah stood beside him in a beautiful dress, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Marcus was looking at his phone in the picture, not at her. He hadn't even noticed when the photographer took it. After that, Sarah's Instagram became all about her work, her friends, and eventually, Bruno. Marcus swiped through dozens of photos of the dog. Bruno at the park. Bruno sleeping. Bruno playing. Bruno, with Sarah's arms wrapped around him. In every single photo with Bruno, Sarah's smile was real. Marcus threw his phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. At 2:30 a.m., he called Jake, his best friend from college. Jake answered, groggily. Marcus? Dude, what time is it? I lost her, Jake. Marcus's voice cracked. I lost my wife to a dog. Jake. There was a pause. What? Sarah. She's in love with our dog. She cuddles with him, talks to him, spends all her time with him. And I can't even be mad because it's my fault. I did this. Jake was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle but honest. Marcus, you didn't lose your wife to a dog. You lost your wife because you stopped being her husband. The words hit like a physical blow, but Marcus needed to hear them. When was the last time you took her on a date? Jake asked. Marcus had to think. I don't know. Maybe 6 months ago? When was the last time you had a real conversation with her? Not about bills or schedules, but about her feelings, her dreams, her life. Marcus couldn't remember. When was the last time you chose her over work? Silence. Man, I love you, but you've been checked out of your marriage for over a year, Jake said. Everyone could see it except you. We all watched you slowly disappear into your job, while Sarah disappeared into loneliness. Why didn't anyone say something? Marcus's voice was almost a whisper. We tried. Your mom tried. David tried. I tried. You brushed us all off. Said you were fine. Said it was just a busy season at work. But it wasn't a season. Marcus. It became your life. Marcus put his head in his hands. I don't know how to fix this. The question is, do you want to fix it? Because fixing it means actually changing, not just promising to change. It means making Sarah a priority, even when work is demanding. It means being present, being engaged, being the partner she deserves. What if it's too late? Maybe it is, Jake said honestly. But you owe it to both of you to try. And not the half-hearted try, where you're good for a week, and then fall back into old patterns. Real, sustained, fundamental change. After they hung up, Marcus stared at the ceiling until dawn broke. Jake was right. They were all right. He'd been living on autopilot, thinking that providing financially was the same as being a husband. He'd confused success at work with success in life. He'd been so wrong. At 7 a.m., Marcus checked out of the hotel and drove home. He found Sarah in the kitchen making coffee. Bruno at her feet, as always. She looked up when he walked in, her eyes red from crying. We need to talk, they both said at the same time. They sat at the kitchen table, the same table where they'd eaten hundreds of meals together, made plans, celebrated small victories. It felt different now, heavier. Marcus spoke first. I'm sorry. Sarah, I am so sorry. Sarah wrapped her hands around her coffee mug but said nothing. I got so caught up in work, in proving myself, in climbing the ladder, that I forgot what I was working for. I forgot about us. I forgot about you. His voice cracked. I made you invisible, and that's unforgivable. Tears filled Sarah's eyes, but she let him continue. I watched you fall in love with a dog because I stopped giving you reasons to love me. I wasn't there. I wasn't present. I treated you like you were an inconvenience instead of the most important person in my life. You're right about all of that, Sarah said quietly. But Marcus, I need more than an apology. I know. I've spent the last 6 months feeling like a ghost in my own home, feeling like I didn't matter, feeling like I was just the person who happened to live in the same house as you." She wiped her eyes. "Do you have any idea how lonely that is? To be married and feel completely alone?" "I'm starting to understand." Sarah looked at Bruno, who sat calmly beside her chair, and then back at Marcus. "The thought of going back to how things were makes me want to run." "We won't go back," Marcus said urgently. "Things will be different. I'll be different." "That's what I'm afraid of," Sarah said. "What if you can't be different? What if this is just who we are now? What if too much damage has been done?" "Sarah, what if it hasn't?" Marcus reached across the table, but didn't touch her, giving her space. "Sarah, I love you. I know I've done a terrible job of showing it, but I do. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove it." "What does that look like?" Sarah challenged. "Does that mean you'll come home at 6 every night? Does that mean you'll put your phone away during dinner? Does that mean you'll actually see me instead of just looking past me?" "Yes, all of that and more." "For how long? A week? A month? Until you get comfortable again and fall back into old habits?" Marcus had no answer that wouldn't sound like an empty promise. "I can't predict the future. I can't guarantee I'll be perfect. But I can promise to try. Really try. And when I slip up, because I will, I promise to listen when you call me on it." Sarah studied his face for a long time. "I want to believe you. God, I want to believe you. But Marcus, you broke my heart. You made me feel worthless. It's going to take more than words to fix that. Then tell me what you need. Please. Tell me how to fix this." Sarah took a shaky breath. "If we do this, if we try, things have to really change. No more 12-hour workdays unless it's an absolute emergency. No more bringing your laptop to bed. No more half-present conversations where your mind is somewhere else. Okay, we need to go to counseling. Both of us. Because this isn't just about you changing. I need to learn how to trust you again. How to open up again. We'll start this week. And Bruno stays." Sarah's voice was firm. Marcus looked at the dog who'd taken his place. For months, he'd seen Bruno as competition, as a threat, as a symbol of his failure. But now, he saw something different. Bruno had done what Marcus couldn't. Bruno had been there. Bruno had listened. Bruno had made Sarah feel loved. "He can stay," Marcus said. And he meant it. He deserves that. And honestly, maybe I need to learn from him. He's been a better companion to you than I have." Sarah let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "I can't believe we're in a place where I'm comparing you to a dog. I can't believe I'm losing to one." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. "I'm scared, Marcus," Sarah finally admitted. "I'm scared to hope. I'm scared to try and have it fall apart again. I'm scared of going back to feeling invisible." "I'm scared too," Marcus said. "I'm terrified that I've already lost you, that it's too late. That you're just going through the motions, because divorce feels too hard. Is that what you think?" "I don't know what to think, but I know I don't want to lose you. I know I'll do whatever it takes to make you feel loved and seen and valued. Because you are all those things. Sarah, you always were. I just forgot to show you." Sarah stood up from the table. For a moment, Marcus thought she was leaving, ending the conversation, ending them. But instead, she walked around to his side and stopped in front of him. "This is going to be hard," she said. "I know. I'm not going to forgive you overnight. I don't expect you to. And if you fall back into old patterns, I'm done. I won't do this again. I understand." She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for something. Finally, she nodded. "Okay. We can try." Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. It wasn't relief. Not exactly. It was more like a reprieve. A chance. One last chance to get it right. The next few weeks were hard. Marcus kept his promises. He came home at 6. He left his laptop in his office. He put his phone away during meals. He asked Sarah about her day and actually listened to her answers. He noticed things. When she was tired, when she was stressed, when she needed support. They started couples counseling. The first session was brutal. Sarah laid out years of hurt, and Marcus had to sit there and hear how his actions, or lack thereof. The therapist made them do exercises, daily check-ins, scheduled date nights, vulnerability practices. It was awkward and uncomfortable and necessary. Sarah was guarded. She didn't open up easily, didn't trust his changes at first. She'd been hurt too many times to let her guard down quickly. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, Marcus saw small shifts. One evening, about 3 weeks in, Sarah laughed at something Marcus said. Real laughter. Spontaneous and genuine. They both froze, recognizing the significance of it. It was the first time she'd laughed with him in months. Sorry, Sarah said, embarrassed. I don't know why that was so funny. Don't apologize. Still, Bruno remained Sarah's primary source of comfort. She still walked him every morning, still talked to him throughout the day, still slept with him on the bed. Marcus tried not to feel jealous. The dog had earned his place. Marcus had to earn his back. One Saturday, Marcus suggested they all go to the dog park together. Sarah looked surprised. You want to come to the dog park? Yeah, I want to be part of your life, Sarah. All of it. Even the parts that include Bruno. At the park, Marcus watched Sarah interact with Bruno and the other dog owners. She was relaxed, smiling, engaged. One of the regulars, an older man with a golden retriever, came over. This must be the famous husband, the man said with a kind smile. Sarah's told us about you. Road. Marcus felt his stomach drop. All good things, I hope? The man's smile faded slightly. She mentioned you've been working on some things. Good for you, son. Not many people are willing to admit when they've messed up and actually do something about it. It wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement, but Marcus supposed he'd earned the skepticism. 2 months in, things were better but still fragile. Marcus and Sarah were rebuilding something, but it wasn't what they had before. It was different, more cautious, more intentional. One night, as they were getting ready for bed, Sarah paused. I need to tell you something. Marcus's heart sank. Okay, I've been waiting to feel how I used to feel about you. That head over heels, can't get enough of you feeling. And it's not there yet. Oh. Marcus tried to hide his disappointment. But, Sarah continued, there's something else. It's not the old feeling, but it's something new. It's trust, starting to rebuild. It's hope that maybe we can create something better than what we had. Better? The old us was built on fantasy and new love. It couldn't survive real life. But maybe we can build something stronger now. Something that can withstand the hard times. Marcus nodded slowly. I'll take it. I'll take new over nothing. Sarah almost smiled. Yeah. Me too. 3 months after the confrontation, Sarah initiated physical affection for the first time. They were sitting on the couch. Marcus on one end, Sarah on the other. Bruno between them, as always. Sarah was reading. Marcus was watching a documentary. Then Sarah reached over Bruno and took Marcus's hand. It was such a small gesture, but it meant everything. Marcus looked down at their joined hands, then up at Sarah. She wasn't looking at him, but there was a small smile on her face. They sat like that for the rest of the evening, hands clasped over the dog that had saved their marriage by nearly destroying it. Progress was slow. There were setbacks. Marcus slipped up occasionally, got too focused on work, missed a dinner. Each time, Sarah called him on it. And each time, Marcus had to prove he was serious about change. But there were victories too. Conversations that lasted hours. Date nights that felt real instead of obligatory. Moments of laughter that came naturally instead of forced. Bruno remained a constant presence, still Sarah's primary confidant, still her emotional support. But Marcus stopped seeing the dog as competition. Instead, he saw Bruno as a reminder. A four-legged reality check that showed Marcus exactly what Sarah needed. Presence, attention, loyalty, unconditional love. One evening, about 4 months after everything fell apart, Marcus came home from work to find Sarah in the backyard with Bruno. She was throwing a ball, laughing as Bruno bounded after it. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching. Sarah turned and saw him. For a moment, their eyes met. Then she smiled and waved him over. "Come play with us," she called. Marcus walked over, and Sarah handed him the ball. Bruno sat at attention, tail wagging, waiting. Marcus threw it, and Bruno took off like a shot. "He's a good dog," Marcus said. "The best," Sarah agreed. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on me." "On us." Sarah looked at him. Really looked at him. In that way she used to before everything went wrong. "We're not saved yet, Marcus. But maybe we're saving ourselves. Is that enough? For now?" Bruno came back with the ball, dropping it at Marcus's feet. The dog looked up at him expectantly, and Marcus realized something. Bruno wasn't his enemy. Bruno was part of their family now, part of their story. Marcus threw the ball again. This time, Sarah reached over and took his hand. They stood there in the backyard as the sun set, hands intertwined, watching Bruno run. It wasn't perfect. They had a long way to go. The trust was still fragile, the wounds still healing. But for the first time in a very long time, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. Sarah squeezed his hand, and when he looked over, she gave him a small, genuine smile. Not the forced smile she'd been giving him for years. A real one. "We're going to be okay," she said softly. "Yeah?" Marcus asked, almost afraid to believe it. "Yeah." And for the first time in a year, Marcus believed they might actually make it too. Sometimes it takes losing everything to realize what you had. Sometimes, a dog has to teach you how to love your wife. Sometimes, broken things can be put back together, but they'll never look quite the same. They'll be different, scarred, marked by the breaking. But maybe, just maybe, they can be stronger for it. Marcus looked at Sarah, at Bruno, at the home they were slowly rebuilding. It wasn't the marriage they'd started with. It was something new, something harder won, something real. And that, Marcus realized, was worth fighting for. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below and tell us what you think. Have you ever felt invisible in a relationship? How did you find your way back? We'd love to hear your story. Thanks for watching. And remember, love requires presence, not just promises. Until next time, take care of the people who matter most.